everybody. So we are so excited today. The year of 2018 films has come and gone, and now is our chance to give our awards for what we think are the best of 2018 in the world of cinema. And I'm Rachel, and I'm joined by my friend Conrado to talk about all of these great films.
Hey Rachel, I just want to take another look at you as we give out these awards.
That's right. I wish I could sing like Lady Gaga.
That's right. Wow. We will not sing. That would not please anyone listening to this. But I am very happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks so much. How do you feel about the year in general? Do you think it was a pretty good year, or are you feeling down on it? How do you feel?
I feel like every year is a good year if you know where to look. If you look, and especially this year, I tried to avoid movies that I thought I wasn't going to like. So I think for the most part, every movie that I saw, there's something there that I was into or that I thought was valuable. So that was pretty pleasing. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel really positive about the year. I mean, I love musicals or music-inspired movies, and I thought this was a very strong year for that. And I also thought it was a surprisingly strong year for animation for me. There were a lot of little hidden gems, and then also I actually liked almost every mainstream film. There was very few that I just made me want to die and were just terrible.
Well, that's good.
There were a couple, Duck Duck Goose, for instance, but for the most part, I enjoyed the animation films for the year, so that made me happy, of course. And there was even some rom-coms that I liked, which that makes me very happy because you don't get those that often. And so yeah, I feel good about the year. I do agree that I think that if all you see is just the mainstream films, then you're more likely to be kind of down on it any year. But if you dig a little deeper, there's always lots of good stuff, I think. So yeah. So all right, let's dive in. So what we're doing here, this is not our top 10 lists kind of a thing. If you want to find that out, I actually did a almost best of the year list. So so the ones that didn't quite make my top list, and then just this last week I did my best of list. I have that out, and you also have your best of list on your blog.
Definitely, yeah.
So I'll put a link down to that. People can check it out. And
for sure.
So let's talk about blockbusters. It was a pretty good year, I think, for blockbusters, and there weren't that many. I really just liked the Pacific Rim Uprising. There were a couple that I just really disliked, but what do you think is your favorite blockbuster of the year?
Yeah, that sounds good. Let's focus on the positive.
Yes.
So my favorite blockbuster of the year is actually, I hate to begin with a cheat, but I really want to pair up these two movies because I often feel so on the outside when it comes to blockbusters. I dislike most Marvel movies and franchises, leaving me cold nowadays. Even Pixar doesn't do it for me quite these days. So the fact that I found two movies that I really, really enjoy, I thought was really something. And I also think there are things in common between these two movies. Even though it might not seem that way at first glance, I am talking, of course, about Paddington 2 and Mission Impossible Fallout. And I put them together just like I did on my best of list because I see them as two new versions of basically slapstick comedy / action. I feel like Paddington Bear and Tom Cruise are sort of the Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton over times. And they're just like getting in these, adventures in which a lot of physicality and physical comedy comes into play.
Yeah.
And
That's a
I don't know.
really interesting comparison because Buster Keaton, he did all his own stunts
Mm-hmm.
and put his life on the line, just like Tom Cruise. I never would have thought that comparison, but
Yeah,
I get it. Yeah.
and the thing about Tom Cruise is really he is commanding our attention because of all these stunts and because of the way he runs and how he sells this life for death situation to us, right?
Right. Yeah.
And Paddington too is such a lovable character, obviously, but also there's a lot of set pieces in which he gets into these like very comedic sort of old-fashioned, almost silent movie type of scenarios that I thought were delightful.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are like the two big studio commercial releases that I had a blast with
Yeah.
this year.
Very good choices. Very good movies. Very the epitome of a kind of, if you want that kind of film, this is it.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
this is how it's done. So I agree with you. Those are really strong. I have Paddington 2 in my top 5 of the year. I had it at number 4. I
Great.
really love it. I think it's just so huggable. It
Delightful.
makes you feel good. It's a very ultimate feel good movie. So good choice. So for my best blockbuster, I have Mary Poppins Returns. It was my favorite movie of the year. I just really responded to it. I loved all of the songs. I loved all the choreography. I loved Emily Blunt as Mary Poppins. To me, it had a really sweet message about, your family and friends getting you through tough times and supporting you. I loved the moment when Michael realizes that his wife is still kind of there in his children, and I thought that was a really lovely moment. I even like Colin Firth as sort of the villainous banker. I thought he was fun, having a good time with the role. I loved all of the songs, the choreography. I thought it was just sort of old-fashioned Walt Disney imagination kind of thing. It was the kind of movie that I felt like Walt would have loved this movie. And a lot of times I don't get that from these live-action films from Disney. And I just appreciated that they wrote new songs and that everybody was really trying to kind of make a lovely little movie. I've seen it 3 times, and every time it just makes me really happy, and I just really, really love it. And I know other people have issues with it, but not me. I really liked it. And so I have it. Yeah, it's my favorite film of the year, and it was my favorite blockbuster. So
Great.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, as you know, I'm not the biggest fan of this movie, but I will give the movie this. When I first heard about the idea of a Mary Poppins sequel, I almost threw up. And
Yeah.
I thought there was no way this movie is going to be any good. And there's no way they can find someone to fill the shoes of Julie Andrews. And yet, somehow the planets aligned and something happened, and they were able to find Emily Blunt, who is able to channel Julie Andrews, and not quite imitate her, and yet
Yeah.
seem like the original Mary Poppins. And that performance, I think, is a minor miracle that it even exists.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be the hardest thing to accomplish, and it's the best thing about the movie.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's a little disappointing, the movie around the performance, but I will totally agree that Emily Blunt is fantastic.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, she's amazing, and we'll talk about her again later on. But yeah, she's just the best. So anyway, that was my favorite. But like I said, I also loved Paddington 2. Was so great. I loved Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse. I loved Crazy Rich Asians. So there were quite a few blockbusters that I enjoyed. So all right, let's talk the other end of the spectrum. Let's talk indies. So we have the best indie, and for me, my favorite was Leave No Trace. I saw it at Sundance last year, and then I saw it 2 other times and in the theater, and now I own it. And I just thought this movie was so moving. And it's, there's a lot of coming of age stories that are just sullen and miserable, and that I don't relate to that kind of teenager at all. And for this girl, she comes to realize that she doesn't have to be like her dad. Like, she can love him and she can support him as a person, but she doesn't have to make the same choices that he makes. And I just thought it was so loving, and her decision by the end just made me want to cheer for her. And I thought that for this kind of off the grid movie, most of the time I'm not a fan, but they don't try to make him a hero at all. And I think that's what makes it work. And I just love it. I think it is a beautiful movie, and it's my favorite indie.
Mm-hmm. I actually watched this just a couple of days ago in preparation for this podcast, because I had a feeling you were going to include it somewhere.
Yeah.
Because you loved it so much, and I hadn't seen it yet. And I thought it was really good.
Okay.
It reminded me, you remember that movie that came out a couple of years ago with Viggo Mortensen, the
Captain Fantastic?
Yeah, so that was also about a dad raising his kids in the woods, but that was so phony, and it didn't work for me at all. Whereas this movie felt so honest, and like you say, like the emotions are so real. I really like the movie.
Yay. I'm glad. Yeah, they don't try to make him the hero, which I felt like in Captain Fantastic they were trying to. And the worst one for me was The Glass Castle, which I absolutely hated.
Oh, right.
And so for this to come along and finally, I guess, do the genre right, in my opinion, was really lovely. And I hope that Deborah Granick doesn't take 8 more years to make her next movie, because she's amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you got to see it. What was your favorite indie?
Well, my favorite movie of the year, Support the Girls, which stars Regina Hall as the manager of a Hooters type restaurant called Double Whammies, in which the girls, wear short shorts and they serve mostly male customers. It's kind of like a Hooters, like I said.
Yeah.
So the movie takes place over one very stressful day at this restaurant, and then Regina Hall character, she's just trying to keep it together because she has to solve 1,000 different problems. And the thing I love about the movie, first of all, it is hilarious, and second of all, it is very humane and complex, especially in its view of these restaurant workers and the type of worker that we don't see in the movies a lot. I think the movies to be very phony when it comes to professional success. They tend to suggest that characters either abandon their work and focus on their families, or that characters just have to pull themselves by their bootstraps and follow the, American dream and get whatever they wanted. When in reality, I feel like it's not so simple. And I think that's what I like about Support the Girls, that it's very honest about what it's like to work one of these jobs, and how there's going to be laughter and friendship, but also there's going to be things that are going to keep you in that job and things that you're not going to like, and that the world is messy and it's not, it's complicated. And the fact that all of that works in a comedy is something that I absolutely love about it.
Yeah. I think Regina Hall is very strong in it, and I do think the supporting cast is really good, and you definitely get a flavor of that slice of life kind of feeling, something like a Linklater kind of movie, which I did. It wasn't my favorite, but I definitely appreciated the performances for sure. Yeah. Very good. Okay. So best animation, I have Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. We did a whole podcast on it. It really is a game changer, I think. It was so beautiful, dazzling. It was dazzling. And but I think it had a huge heart, and I think very, very creative, and just really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah. I have Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse as well. Yeah, like you said, we did a whole podcast about it, and so if you want to know more about how I feel about it, you can go and check that out.
That's right.
Spoiler alert, I loved it. I was actually very happy when it won the Golden Globe this weekend for animated film. I really thought the fact that it is based on the comic books and, the superhero thing was going to hurt it, but it seems like it's on its way to getting nominated and, possibly winning the Oscar, and that would be great.
Yeah, I was afraid that sort of anti-Sony animation bias would come into play, but hopefully it won't for the Academy, because it doesn't matter what other stuff the studio has done. It should just be judged on its own.
Yeah, and it's the rare thing that happened at the Golden Globes that was actually made me happy, because some of the choices were Oh my God, Rachel, I don't know how you're feeling about the fact that Bohemian Rhapsody will probably get a Best Picture nomination at the expense of Mary Poppins Returns. I don't think you want to talk about it right now.
No, it makes me depressed inside because I didn't like
Yeah.
Bohemian Rhapsody at all. So I mean, I guess Rami Malek was fine, but no, it's like giving a Oscar to a VH1 movie of the week, in my opinion. But
Mm,
oh well, what
yeah,
are you gonna do?
yeah.
I know other people really enjoyed it.
Well, I still haven't seen it, but now that it's gonna get nominated, I feel like I have to. I'm having a rough time.
Yeah, well, it has some good things about it, but the script was not my favorite. But oh well. Okay, so next category we have indie animation, and I had kind of three that I really liked. I mean, I had a lot that I really liked, but I loved The Night is Short, Walk On Girl, which was
Mm,
an anime that is insane about this girl who goes on this bender, this this drinking bender, which wouldn't normally be my thing, but it was so bright, so colorful, so creative. Really
mm,
enjoyed it. It's actually a musical, which of course I'm going to be a big fan of. It was really good. I really liked Mirai by Mamoru Hosoda. I thought it was a beautiful movie about a little boy learning to accept his sister, and he gets all this help from people in his past, and his family past, and he gets help from people in the future, and it's really cute. I like that. And then I really loved a little movie called Sergeant Stubby, an American Hero, by a new animation studio in the US, which is very exciting.
mm,
I thought they did such a good job balancing. First of all, they didn't have the dog talk. It wasn't anthropomorphic in any way, which I thought it was just a dog, which I thought was brilliant.
cool.
And also, I thought that they did such a good job of balancing, like telling a true depiction of war that wouldn't traumatize children. They didn't gloss over it. They definitely had kids would learn the stakes of war, and it wasn't like an America rah 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 kind of piece really at all. But it wasn't it's not going to send them into therapy. They did. I thought that's tricky. It was a very tricky balance, and I thought they did a great job. And I just warmed my heart. I really liked it. So those are some of the indie animation that I liked this year. Did you have any that you got to see?
Okay. Well, actually, no. I was surprised, but then I looked at what I've seen this year, and I don't think I saw anything unless you count something like Isle of Dogs, and I don't think that really counts.
Yeah.
So, so I really appreciate the recommendations because after, looking through my list, I was thinking, oh my God, I gotta catch up with these movies.
Oh, good. Yeah. Another one that was really good is called Makio and the Promised Flower Blooms. It was a very ambitious fantasy film by Mariah Okada, and it's really cool to see in the world of anime that more female voices are getting to make films, which makes me happy.
Mm,
And it was very ambitious, but normally I don't like fantasy, but I liked this because it's really about a girl becoming a mother, and at its core.
mm.
So it has a very intimate feel, despite being a fantasy with dragons and battles and whatever. So it was very ambitious, and I enjoyed it. So yeah, there's actually been some really strong little ones. I think you would particularly like Mirai. It is also very intimate, just about this little
Hmm.
boy, and has some magical realism to it. It was really fun.
Yeah, that's the
So
one I've heard the most about.
yeah, but anyway, yeah, it was some fun ones. So
Yeah.
all right. So best director. For me, I thought about this, and I thought about Alfonso Cuarón. Definitely would be in my short list,
Hmm.
but I actually decided to go with Andrew Hay for Lean on Pete. I loved Lean on Pete. I thought it was so moving, and it was just a movie that just stuck with me for days and days and days after I saw it. I really think it's like a true sort of portrait of America today. And there were so many scenes that really stuck with me, that were devastating. And I thought, obviously, what happens to Pete when the horse gets hit, that was devastating. And I think I also thought the dine and dash scene was so touching, and beautiful. And I thought, what the waitress decides to do, I really thought that scene was great. I loved the ending with when he finally reaches his aunt and she says it's okay and everything's going to be okay. I mean, that was devastating and powerful. And I just thought it was I thought he did such a great job, especially because he's not even American, like showing the cinematography was so beautiful and just showing this whole story. I thought he did a great job. So
that's a really good point. That he is, British filmmaker, but he, unlike some others, he really shows a very honest and it seems like he's very careful about showing reality of this country in a way that, that feels honest, and it doesn't feel like he's just, I don't know, it makes me think of something like Three Billboards, which is so, it's like it's just trying to agitate and be edgy about the way it's showing
that is a
America.
really good comparison. That is brilliant. Yeah, I agree with you. I think he's a brilliant director. Like every single one of his movies I've really liked that I've seen. So
cool.
That's why. What do you have at Best Director?
So I have Lucrecia Martel, who directed the movie Zama, which is, we talked about her when we did our 2008 episode, and I put her movie The Headless Woman on my list. So this is the first movie she's done since then, actually. So it's been almost 10 years.
Wow.
And it is the story of a Spanish functionary who's stationed in the middle of the jungle in South America, back when South America was a Spanish colony. And he's basically waiting to get a notification from the king that he can move to a more desirable location than the middle of the jungle and get a better job, basically. But of course, back in the day, these things take time and the bureaucracy, and nobody really cares about this guy in the middle of the jungle. And so he just is waiting and waiting as he slowly goes crazy and crazier, trying to, wait for this new position. And the great thing about the movie, in my opinion, is that Martel really puts us in the mind of this character, not only in the fact that he's going crazy, but also the fact that because he is of Spanish descent, but he's in South America, he's sort of alienated himself from the world around him. And so he doesn't see himself as either one or the other. And the movie really explores this weird thing about Latin America, which, in which the upper class of people who basically are ruling the continent don't really see themselves as fully American. And so they're a little alienated from the rest of the world. And it's sort of like a fissure in the middle of the continent. Having been born and growing up there, I really got to see that. And I think she really gets at it in a very interesting way through her filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this fell under my radar. I didn't even know about it. So this is good.
Yeah. When I did my top 10 post, actually, I put this in a tie with Roma, because I think there are almost two sides of the same coin of two movies who try to get at really like the essence of Latin America, but from two totally different points of view and perspectives, right? Like, the Alfonso Cuarón movie is very sentimental, and it's about a woman in the lower class, and it's like a native Mexican. And whereas this movie from Lucrecia Martel is more cerebral, and it's very funny, but it's very, darkly funny about a privileged man, basically, who is trying to test the limits of his privilege and encounters that he might not have as much as he thought.
Yeah. Very good. I'll definitely have to check it out. I missed that one.
I have to say it's a really strange movie, so be prepared, because she does some really interesting directing things, like jumping through time and disorienting things, because the guy is like losing his mind. So she really puts you in that headspace.
Cool. Good. All right. So we have Best Actress. And I went back and forth on this, but I just decided to give Emily Blunt the win for both of her movies. I think both A Quiet Place and Mary Poppins Returns, she talked about difference, but I thought she was just excellent in both, and was really drew you into the characters. And that scene when she has to give birth in Quiet Place was, I thought, so well acted. And there were also really sweet moments, like when they're dancing, both listening to, I thought that really worked. And I'm not like the biggest like scary movie fan, but I thought that movie really worked as far as just building up tension and making me feel like, but when I got out of it, I had just an incredible like theater experience. I guess I'm not saying it's the greatest movie in the world, but it really worked as far as a theater experience for me. And I got out and I was like so tense that like there was somebody drinking from the water fountain, and they kind of popped up in a way, and I was so tense that I was like, ah! They were like, I think I was like, what is wrong with you? Like, but I was just so wound up. And it did a great job of that. And I think a lot of that goes to her performance and, just what's going to happen with this baby. And so I thought it did a really good job, and I thought she did a good job in it. So that would be my choice.
Yeah, but like I said, my favorite part of Mary Poppins Returns was her, and I do really think she did an amazing job. So not a bad choice at all.
So who do you have?
I have, not unlike you, also a performance from my favorite movie of the year, and that would be Regina Hall in Support the Girls.
Yeah.
I just identify with her character a lot. She's just trying to get through this very difficult, very stressful day. And there is a moment when, actually, I apologize, Rachel, because I'm going to curse, but it's just because I'm going to quote the character.
Okay.
And it's that she says, she's having this very hard day and she's having a conversation with her husband. And she just says, I can take fucking up all day long, but I cannot take not trying. And that really stuck with me, because that was the whole thing about the movie, I think, about this sort of potential for people to keep going and keep trying to find solutions, even when the world around them is so difficult and so unjust. And that resonated with me so much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's my movie of the year for a reason. I love it. And I love Regina Hall in it.
Did you get to see her in The Hate You Give as well?
Not yet, actually, but I heard she was really good in that as well.
She's really good. They did such a good job of really making it feel like these people were a family. Like it felt like they had history together, felt like they knew each other. They had such chemistry. They did a really good job, I think, with that. And she's excellent in that as well. So good choice. Okay, so Best Actor. I already talked about how much I loved Lean on Pete. For me, I thought Charlie Plummer did an amazing job in that role. He carries the film. He's one of there's people who come in and out, but he is the majority of the movie. And I just thought he did a great job. And I think he's an incredible young talent. He was the best thing in, Christopher Plummer was good in that, I can't think of the name, but but he was
All the Money in the World.
Yeah, he was really good, I think, as well, as far as his performance. I just think he's a very talented young man, so he did a great job.
Right. Yeah, I've heard most people are really impressed by Charlie Plummer, and I think he's good, though I have to say the thing that keeps me from connecting with Lena and Pete, I think, is I find it a little kind of hard to get into the character's mind and understand some of his choices, so that's why I can't fully commit to this performance, but I get the feeling that maybe if I watch the movie again, it's going to become clearer now that I know where it's going. But the first time it seemed a little, it was a little hard for me, but I don't know, like you, and I've heard other people like really impressed by him. So it makes me want to give it a second chance.
Yeah, I was blown away by his performance. It totally was truth to me, but it's subjective. But yeah, I think he's great, and I do think Lucas Hedges is also an incredibly talented young actor. And he had a great year in a number of different films. So yeah, there you go. Who would you have as Best Actor?
My Best Actor choice is Steven Yeun from the movie Burning.
Yeah.
So Steven Yeun has won some awards as Best Supporting Actor, which I think is great, but I think this is a lead performance. So I've put him in the, lead category, even though it's kind of borderline. If you were a stickler about it, I guess you can say that the main character is a different character played by this guy, In Yu. I hope I'm pronouncing that somewhat correctly. He's also quite good in the movie, and he plays this sort of writer who reconnects with a girl that he used to know when they were kids. And back then he used to tease her a lot, and she wasn't very pretty, so he made fun of her. But now she's had she's had plastic surgery, and now they reconnect, and he thinks she's very attractive and wants to pursue her romantically. And so the thing that happens is the girl goes on a trip to Africa, and when she comes back with this new guy, basically, her new boyfriend. And this is the character played by Steven Yeun. And this guy is very slick and very handsome. And so the main guy, this love triangle develops, and the main character starts to suspect that this Steven Yeun character may not be who we think he is, and he might be a much more, malevolent guy than we think. So the whole movie revolves about this question of what is actually going on with this character. And the masterstroke of Steven Yeun's performance, I think, is that he plays with the audience and with the other characters so well at, giving us a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and making us doubt, is this guy really bad, or is he evil, or is it just this protagonist is so jealous that he's projecting onto him? Like, what is actually going on? He's so charismatic. He commands the screen with such presence, and, he's a movie star, I think, after watching this movie, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I really want to see that one. I haven't had the chance. I don't think it's come out here in Utah yet, as far as I know.
I wouldn't be surprised because it's just rolling out now. It's trying to get a foreign film nomination. So it's a South Korean movie, by the way, if I haven't said that.
Yeah,
but
I really want to see it. Yeah.
And I thought he was great.
Cool. So best ensemble film, I really liked Shoplifters, but I'm going to give this one to Crazy Rich Asians. I just thought it was such a perfectly executed romantic comedy, and I love romantic comedies, and I think I thought all of the characters, their motivations made sense. It was still very funny. I thought the wedding was incredible. I just thought almost every joke landed. I liked pretty much every character, and I just really loved it. So I have it as the best ensemble. So
great ensemble, and I'm glad you also mentioned the Shoplifters ensemble, because that also was almost my pick. But my pick ended up being, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but Support the Girls. I really wanted to showcase the supporting cast in this movie, because I think the way the performers play off each other is so essential to the movie's success. I especially want to showcase Haley Lou Richardson, who she plays Maisty, the only girl who actually loves to work at Double Whammies, and she's so peppy and she's such a sweet girl, which I think sometimes it's really hard to do without making the characters seem dumb, and I think she really is good at that. And there's also Shayna McHale, who she's also hilarious, and she plays like Virginia Hall's basically her right-hand girl. Yeah. I think partially why I picked it for ensemble is because I couldn't pick between the two of them for best supporting actors, but also because there's also a lot of other great performances. James LeGros and Dylan Jalula, Brooklyn Decker are all really funny. I feel like every character I sort of had a little bit of something that I remember.
Very cool. Good. Yeah. They all did a good job with that. AJ Michalka, I thought did a very good job, and she is on the Goldbergs, and I really think she's great on that show as well. And so that was kind of fun to see her in a feature film. That was fun for me. Cool. So anyway. Okay. Supporting actress, I have Thomasin McKenzie from Leave No Trace. It's one of those, but I think you could make an argument based on, I mean, these supporting actress is very, very murky. The supporting, what counts as supporting, but I thought that she was amazing in the role, and I just really felt emotionally tied to her character. And when she makes the decision at the end, I was literally just like cheering. I was like, yes, it was so brave to make that decision. And so anyway, I thought she did an incredible job. And
I will agree with you. It's a really good performance, but I don't think it's a supporting performance at all.
Fair enough. If we're going true supporting, one I really loved that no one will talk about because it was right straight to Netflix was I really loved Penelope Wilton in the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society.
Oh yes,
I thought that she was. Yeah, I thought that she was lovely, and she in that role, she she's very skeptical of Lily James's character because she's been through so much, and she's a great actress, Wilson. So that was probably be my pick for true supporting role.
Great.
Yeah. What about you?
Well, so here I go, trashing your pick because it's not supporting, and now I have this performance that I think is kind of elite. I feel like this performance is actually bordering the line. So you will tell me if you agree or
Okay.
not. My pick is Sakura Ando from the movie Shoplifters. She plays basically the mom figure in the movie.
Yeah. She's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, she's great. I don't know. I feel like
It's an ensemble film, so I think you
yeah.
can make the argument that for either case.
All right, so I'm just gonna run with it because I think she's absolutely amazing. There is the sequence, I think you know what I'm talking about, near the end of the movie when she's being interviewed or actually kind of interrogated by a government official on why she did the things that she did, and the camera just stays on her, and she delivers these monologues with such passion and such emotion. You can really see what this woman is going through. And that it's this very, very hard moment in her life, and I was floored by that scene. I think she's absolutely great.
Yeah, that's a great scene. And I mean, it's just such an interesting movie because it's all about how they've sort of created their own law, and it's like right, and we all know it's right, but it's not right, if that makes sense. Like they're breaking up this family, and yet we know that that's the best place for all of the characters. That's when they're going to be loved the most, but our law says that they have to be broken up. And I think that there's such humanity in that performance, and such a flawed character, but with the best of intentions. And yeah, really good, very good one.
Yeah. And I'm sensing a theme of sort of like families against the law and the government being broken up, Leave No
Yeah,
Trace,
that's true.
and then Shoplifters, both of our picks. So
yeah, I mean,
there's
Lean on
something
Pete
there.
has that a little bit too.
For sure.
Yeah, good point. Okay. So supporting actor, I have Hugh Grant in Paddington 2. He was willing to make fun of himself. He was a good sport. He was hilarious. And I just love the movie, and I love him in it. He's so fun.
Great choice. I think he's really funny. My only caveat with this choice is that some people, when praising Hugh Grant, have dissed Nicole Kidman, who plays the villain in the first movie, and I think that's unfair. I think they're equally delightful performances, and I'm totally down with singing the praises for Hugh Grant, but let's not sleep on Nicole Kidman because she also did a great job.
Yeah, she did. She did a great job. I mean, I would probably pick Hugh Grant over because it had that extra meta level to it. But they both did great. Yeah.
I mean, there's that singing moment at the end that I think really, really puts a button on Hugh Grant's performance. That it's so delightful.
Playing a foppish actor is just hilarious.
Yeah, when he does the commercial in the dog costume. Yeah, no, it's really great performance.
What did you have?
I have Brian Tyree Henry from the movie If Beale Street Could Talk. I want to preface this by saying that one of my big frustrations this year is actually that I couldn't fully connect with If Beale Street Could Talk, which I was really looking forward to the movie. And then I didn't quite get into it. That being said, there are many things about the movie that I really love, and one of them is Brian Tyree Henry's performance. He's not in much of the movie, only a couple scenes, but
which role does he play?
He plays the friend of the main character who has just been released from jail. And he has this one monologue, which I think it's amazing, in which he talks about being in there and what a horrible experience it was and how it really changed the way he looks at his life. And I don't know, you can sense all these emotions in the way he delivers the monologue. You can feel that he's so scared to go back there, and he's also angry that he's not able to make sure that he doesn't go back. I don't know, it was one of the most emotionally and visceral scenes I saw this year, and definitely one of my favorite scenes in the movie. So I really tip my hat to him.
Yeah, he's a good performance. I did not like that movie really at all, but it has some good things about it, I guess. But I also want to throw out Rafael Casal for Blind Spotting. I thought that his performance was like made me so anxious the whole time. I was like, this guy, is he gonna like kill people? Like, he was so erratic and so crazy, but like I thought it really worked. I liked that movie.
Cool. I've heard great things. I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, you haven't seen it? Yeah,
No.
I didn't like Sorry to Bother You. I thought this was a much better, with some of the same themes, much better movie, in my opinion. But I really like Blind Spotting. But yeah, his friend plays his best friend. That's a very like toxic person. But I don't know. It was a good performance. So that's one I check out. All right. So best score, I really struggled with this because there were a bunch of scores that I actually really liked this year, but I went with the more obscure one just for fun. I went with The Night is Short, Walk On Girl. I already mentioned it. This is such a fun, bubbly score. It does evolve into actual musical numbers. This director, Masaki Yuasa, I guess, if I'm saying it wrong. This movie's not gonna be for everybody. It's very, very surreal, very abstract. It's very weird. But I just thought it was joyful and I really enjoyed it. And I thought this score was really fun, very bubbly, and I liked it. So that's what I picked.
My pick for score is If Beale Street Could Talk by Nicholas Bertel.
Yeah, it was a good score.
Didn't love the movie, but this is one of the things I loved about it was the score. I think it's so beautiful and really captures that sweeping romantic feeling that the movie's trying to go for. I've been listening to it ever since it became available to stream a lot. I think it's beautiful. I really hope it gets some Oscar attention because it would be really deserved.
It was really good. That score was great. I also love Alexander Desplat's score for Isle of Dogs.
Sure.
I thought was really good.
And since we're shouting people out, I also really like, which I think it's a score that you don't like, if I remember correctly, but Terrence Blanchard scored for BlacKkKlansman, which I think is so unusual for that sort of movie.
Yeah.
I really appreciated that.
And I also really like the Black Panther score. I think it's really cool.
Oh, yeah.
How it weaves in the African themes and stuff.
Yeah. Great score.
So, bunch of good stuff. All right, best song. I really kind of have a three-way tie. I know it's so unfair. I could not decide, but I love Shallows from Stars Born. Absolutely love that song. It was so good. I love Triple Little Light Fantastic from Mary Poppins Returns. I thought that was just
the wrong song to like from Mary Poppins, but whatever.
The wrong song?
I think the best song of Mary Poppins Returns is by far the last one. Nowhere to Go But Up.
Yeah, that's very delightful as well. And then I also love, there's this little movie that I loved called Anna and the Apocalypse. It was our zombie Christmas themed musical, which I thought was brilliant and I really liked it. And there's a great song called Hollywood Ending in there. That I thought was great. So those are my three-way tie.
Wow, great. Okay. Since you cheated with a tie, I'm going to also do a bit of a cheat. It's not a tie, but I'm going to pick a song that is not technically an original song, but that underscores one of my, at least one of the most effective scenes that I saw this year. And that would be the sort of retooling and translation of the song Yellow by Coldplay in Crazy Rich Asians. There's a scene in the plane, I should have seen it coming, but they really got me with that ring. And the fact that they chose that specific song by a band that is largely, I don't know, at least by me, considered to be very uncool and make me appreciate the song all over again. And in this like swelling context and translating into Chinese, I don't know, it really worked for me. And I've been listening to this song that I hadn't listened to in years and that I thought it wasn't a very good song. But now I have this, I will forever like connect the song to this moment that was so cathartic. I thought it was such a romantic comedy moment and it worked so well for me.
Yeah, very good. I wouldn't have thought of that, but that's a good pick. Okay, so the visual effects, there were a lot of pretty good visual effects this year. I was almost put Paddington 2 because it was so good. But I'm gonna go with Bumblebee. I really thought this movie was charming. I thought that it had such heart. I thought that it was so impressive what Travis Knight did to revive this, or really make the first good one. Because I've always thought there was such potential in the Transformers movies, and here this was just a sweet, lovely little movie, and it wouldn't have been as effective if Bumblebee hadn't been such a greatly rendered character. And I thought they did a really excellent job. And even when there's some like fight sequence and other stuff, it just looked really good. And if I was going to have a best soundtrack, then Bumblebee would probably be my pick as far as picking different songs, existing songs, not original. I think it has a really amazing soundtrack. But I know I just really enjoyed it, and I thought it did a great job.
Cool. I haven't seen it yet, but I want to catch up with it because I've heard really good things about it unexpectedly, right?
Yep. Yeah, it was a really great surprise, and I think that it's a really lovely family film. And this was the year for like kids and their either dogs or
horses.
Yeah, thanks, kind of thing. And this was just a very, very nostalgic, very sweet movie, in my opinion. So.
Cool. My pick for visual effects is Mission Impossible Fallout.
Yeah.
Because there's no visual effect like a practical effect, and there's no practical effect like Tom Cruise, because he will just do anything and everything for the sake of his movie and for the sake of cinema. So let's appreciate the fact that the best visual effect of the year is a person, and his name is Tom Cruise.
Yeah. That's a really good one. Yeah, I mean, he's great in that movie. All right.
I just feel like we can do everything with computers, but no computer can do what he's doing.
Yeah. Very good. Okay, so best screenplay. I have one we haven't talked about yet. I have Juliet Naked as my favorite screenplay, no question. Nick Hornby is such a brilliant writer, and his novel was so great, and they did such a great job of bringing it into a film. I think it's such an interesting movie about obsession and the creative process. And have you heard of it, Julie?
I have heard of it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it though.
Yeah. So it's all about this woman played by Rose Byrne who has this sort of crisis. She's had this live-in boyfriend, whatever, for 13 years. And they had kind of made the decision they weren't going to have children early on in their relationship. And now she's sort of doubting that choice that she made and kind of regretting it. And her boyfriend is played by Chris O'Dowd, and he is obsessed with this singer who only did 2 albums, and one of them called Juliet Naked. So the name makes the movie sound more scandalous than it is. It's really not at all. And he's this like podcaster, and they like him and his friends like talk obsessively about each song, and they analyze it and they dissect it. And what do you think he's trying to say with this lyric and whatever? And so she ends up one day on the forums actually just saying how she doesn't like this particular album or song or whatever. And the actual singer, ends up responding to her, played by Ethan Hawke. And they start to have this sort of conversation, and he's ended up having like 5 children with all these different women, and he's trying his best to be a good dad despite his choices. But it's just this interesting contrast between the woman who decided not to have children, regrets it, and this man who has more children than he knows what to do with. So it's interesting. And I think they do. The thing that makes the screenplay so brilliant is that this Chris O'Dowd character could easily be a caricature, especially because he makes some really not nice choices. And it would be, so the fact that at the end of the movie, he has a moment where he kind of sticks up for all of us obsessive, crazed people. And I think the fact that the movie earns that moment shows what a good script it is, because like I said, he makes some not so nice choices, and yet you still buy him in this emotional moment. And I loved it. I thought it was funny, it was sweet, it was romantic, but not really a romantic comedy actually. And it was thoughtful and great, very well acted by all the three leads. I just thought it was great. So that's my favorite screenplay of the year.
And you have read the book that it's based on?
Yeah. And I mean, he's just I love Nick Hornby, but he tends to always write about obsession of some kind, modern obsession.
Well,
fever pitch, whether it's, that was soccer, or or Boy, kind of in a way too. He's a great writer. So.
Cool. So I've also picked, interestingly, a screenplay based on a material that I have also read, and that would be the movie Burning, which is based on a short story by Haruki Murakami.
Uh-huh.
And so I've explained the plot basically when I was talking about Steven Yeun, but this is directed and written by Lee Chang-dong, who we talked about when we did our 2007 podcast. He did the movie Secret Sunshine. I don't know if I remember.
Oh, yeah,
you remember.
yeah.
It was on my list. So this is an adaptation of Murakami, and the short story that it's based on is really short, but the movie is almost 3 hours long. And so what he does is he takes the basic premise of the short story, but he brings us this new element that I talked about, which is a sort of like jealousy and rage of the male character, and he makes it much more of a love triangle. And the protagonist, who is the narrator of the short story, is much more passive in that one, and he's only a friend to the girl. But in this one, he's more, wants to pursue her romantically. So that raises the stakes, and it really turns a story that is very haunting in its own way, but it's more of like a ghost story, into a story that is more of like a thriller and like what's going on, And I think it works really great. I was very impressed by that adaptation, because it, it keeps the essence of the story, but it turns it into its own thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah, I need to see that for sure. All right. So the best duo, I have, actually, to my surprise, I have Ralph and Vanellope from Ralph Breaks the Internet. I thought that what they did in this movie was so interesting, because you have these characters that are friends, and by the end they have to learn to kind of accept the fact that they see the world differently, and yet they can still love each other. And I think that that's the hardest thing in life, is to accept people for who they are and still love them, and maybe even love them because of those differences and the unique way that they look at the world. And I actually thought that the messaging was fairly nuanced, and I thought their relationship really grew in a more interesting way than in the original, in my opinion. And I just really thought they were great. So I liked it.
Cool. I was really underwhelmed by the movie when I saw it, but I will agree with you. Something that I didn't give the movie enough credit when I first saw it is that they really go to an honest place with this Ralph and Vanellope relationship, and the idea that you can be selfish and very codependent of your friends, and fail to see when something is good for them. I think that was really, in retrospect, I think that's a very interesting thing to put in a children's movie.
Yeah, and you love somebody, and yet you might kind of have to, it sounds cheesy, but like let them go and go on their adventure and try something new, and you can support them. I think it was really cute, really cool. And so anyway, what did you have as your favorite duo?
So my favorite duo is from Creed 2, which I think got some kind of disappointing reviews, but I really enjoyed it. And
me too.
One of the things that I enjoyed the most was the relationship between Adonis Creed, played by Michael B. Jordan, and Bianca, played by Tessa Thompson.
Yeah.
I think I was surprised to find, after watching this movie, that I'm really rooting for this couple, and that I really like these two fictional characters together. And I was so happy to see them in a marriage that is uh, tender, and
Yeah.
there's this old-fashioned melodramatic romance element to it, and that they're really trying to make it work, and there's communication and love, and I don't know, I'm just rooting for the two, and
Yeah.
obviously they're two of the most attractive people in the world, so of course I'm gonna be mesmerized by the romance, but I was really into it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was actually going to be one of mine, the underrated, because even though it's technically certified fresh, I don't know,
Hmm.
I just feel like it wasn't given the I thought it was great. I mean, I was
Yeah.
literally rooting for both sides. I thought the Dragos was done very well, and I
Hmm.
thought that he was done. I would have been fine with either of them winning, and that's hard to do, I think, in a boxing movie.
Yeah, I liked it a lot, and I think a lot of I think a lot of people sort of gave the movie a pass because it's pretty good, but did wear a little, I don't know, weren't impressed
Yeah,
by it. But I think there's a lot of stuff going on there that I really
yeah,
liked.
I agree. Yeah, it didn't have like the fancy camera work, but I don't really like that's secondary to me. As far as I mean, I like the first one better, but
Yeah, but
I
it's still
thought
really
that
good.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, very good pick. Okay, so my the best kiss I give to the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. The
Ah,
at the end of have you seen it?
no, the
Okay.
potato movie. Hey, I'm
Yeah, the
so
potato
serious.
movie at the end. I love the book and I love the movie. At the
Oh.
end of the movie, spoiler alert, they have a scene where they both meet on the boat. She's going to find him. He's going to find her, and they meet midway, which was very romantic. And uh, they're they're surrounded by people, and I love scenes in romantic movies where they're surrounded by people, and yet it's only them. Like they have that
Mm,
moment of connection. That's very romantic. And she proposes to him, and
mm.
then they have this great kiss, and it's really good. I loved it.
Cool.
Yep.
I haven't seen it, although I've been curious about the potato movie. I think it's one of those things about when it's on Netflix and you just like keep pushing it off, thinking you'll get to it. So,
It's a really
I haven't
sweet
seen it yet.
little movie. I think so.
Cool. So my pick for best kiss, this was a hard one for me, actually, this category, and I'm not fully satisfied with my choice because I feel like there might be something out there that I'm forgetting, but I'm gonna go with it, and I'm gonna say my pick is the opening shot of Widows, in which we see Viola Davis and
Mm.
Liam Neeson just going ahead and having a big, wet, sloppy kiss.
Yeah.
With no other reason, because I think it's a very bold way to start a movie.
Yeah, that was
Because
definitely
it is an unusual
yeah,
kiss, right?
yeah,
It's not
yeah,
the
that's
sort of
true.
kiss you usually get in a movie.
It's true. Another one that I thought was very well done is the Ferris wheel scene in Love, Simon, the ending. I thought
Uh,
that was very, very
yeah.
good. So okay. Biggest laughs. I have two picks.
Okay.
First one, I have Game Night, which I thought, oh, he'll probably maybe talk about that. I don't know. It was so
Yeah.
funny,
Hilarious.
especially if you have a family that's into games, which my family is. So I really that was funny, and also I think it showed so well that sort of desperation when you're in your 30s of trying to socialize, but it's like kind of awkward and it's hard, and I thought it really captured that really well. Also, there's this little indie film made out of it's a Turkish film that I saw at Sundance called
Mm.
Butterflies, which I thought it's a dark comedy. It's very sweet and touching, but there's this running gag, and I guess this maybe would be a little bit of a spoiler, but there's this gag where the chickens in the town eat gunpowder, and they just
Oh my God.
randomly explode, and like so they'll just be going through the movie, and all of a sudden, boom, chicken everywhere. And I know, like, I'm sure that's not what would actually happen if chickens ate
Right.
gunpowder, but it was to me for whatever reason. Every time it happened, I just died laughing. I thought it
That
was
sounds
so
really
funny,
funny.
and there were
That
other funny stuff about it. But I really enjoyed Butterflies. It was really good.
that sounds really funny.
Yeah.
Okay, gotta catch up with that one. Biggest laughs. My pick is the movie Blockers.
Oh, okay.
Um, but more specifically than the movie Blockers, I wanted to highlight what I think is one of the funniest performances of the year, and this is given by a woman named Geraldine Viswanathan, I think is how you pronounce her last
Mm-hmm.
name. And she plays one of the teenage girls who was trying to lose her virginity on prom night, and she is so funny. She deserves to be a breakout performance, I think, just like, Melissa McCarthy in Bridesmaids or Tiffany Haddish in Girls Trip, because
Mm-hmm.
she's great. And I think the fact that she's a teenager and, Blockers didn't do quite as well as those other movies is going to prevent her from becoming a superstar right away. But I think she deserves it. And I just want to highlight her because if you're a casting director and you want someone funny in your movie, get this girl, Geraldine Viswanathan. She's so funny.
Very good. Cool. I haven't seen that one, but also I believe it or not, I thought Teen Titans Go to the Movies was hilarious. I died. There's this whole section particularly where they go back in time and fix the origin stories of all the superheroes, and it was very funny. I had no expectations going into it, and I was just laughing and laughing and laughing. So anyway, okay, so most rewatchable, I have Paddington 2. I think I can't imagine ever getting tired of Paddington 2. And I also loved, and I think I'll watch every Christmas from now on, I'll watch Anna and the Apocalypse because it was just joyful and effervescent and everything that you could want as far as just creativity. And I just loved it. I thought it was great. It's definitely going to be a new Christmas movie for me.
Cool. I really wanted to see that one, but it scraped by because it was in and out of theaters here in New York. But the Paddington 2, I think, is a great choice. I will definitely rewatch that. And my personal pick is, again, broken record, but Support the Girls is the movie I've seen the most times this year, and I will watch it many times more during my lifetime. So, gotta go with that.
Very good. All right, tearjerker. So I think the biggest tearjerker I would say is probably Roma. I think when she has the baby, that scene was just devastating. I was bawling, and there were a lot of really devastating moments in the movie. Another one that's not really a tearjerker, but that I cried the most in the theater was actually Instant Family. That movie just emotionally was really worked for me. And I thought that it was very, very well done and very surprising. And by the end, there's the end, you see all of the people that were involved in the movie with their adopted kids. And it was definitely the credits that just made me cry the most. I just thought it was so sweet, and I really enjoyed it. So those are probably my two biggest ones that made me cry the most.
Cool. The movie that made me cry the most, and this is no contest, I was tearing up beginning to end, is the movie Minding the Gap, which is a documentary about these kids growing up somewhere in Illinois who are these skaters, and they have this history of basically of abuse in their families, right? And I just think just seeing these very real people being very real and having, I don't know, just when the guy, I forget his name, but when the guy gets promoted at the restaurant. Kier. Yeah. So he gets this promotion and it's just such a small thing. But for that guy, it's such a big deal. And I was just like tearing up so much, just so happy for him that he got that. This movie makes you really connect to these people and really see, the people that are out there and what is going on with them. This whole feel like it's a microcosm for this whole generation of people who are going through similar things.
It's really good. I think the moment when the director, Bing Lee, when he confronts his mom about why she allowed these people, that moment is devastating. And, she's just like, it's also quite loving, even though it's tough.
That's the thing.
Yeah, it's a great movie. I saw it at Sundance and I was blown away. And he was there, and I just can't believe some of the footage that he got and that he was able to. I mean, and you just don't see that many movies about how domestic violence affects young boys. And this was a very beautiful, interesting depiction of, and
It's just
it was
so
great.
human,
Yeah.
right? Like in
Mhm.
every moment you see the human connection in a way that I don't know if you could ever in a fictional film. I think the fact that all these are real people
Yeah.
really gets under your skin and makes
Yeah.
it work.
Yeah. Very good. I loved it. I'm glad you got a chance to see it. Uh, okay. Date movie. I have The Incredibles 2
Oh,
because I
okay.
think it's about family, and I think what they have to, and it's also really entertaining. I think it would be a good one for a date because it's got like action, and that the guys might like a little bit more, and it's sort of funny, and
Okay.
yet it also has real heart and is about like I said, about a family, and you get like Violet and her romantic things, and I don't know, I just think it'd be a good one. And then I also have Instant Family. I think if the guy I was dating didn't feel anything for that movie, then I'd be like, I don't know. I don't know if we're a match
Those
because
are always good.
anyway.
So I think I'm going to continue sort of this tradition I've started of talking of the worst possible date movies that you can have for this. And I'm gonna go with First Reformed, which is about a man who is having a crisis of faith because he realizes that the world is going to end because of global warming, and maybe we should all despair and stop believing in any kind of salvation because we're all doomed. So, first date movie. Perfect.
Very good. I also actually do think The Night is Short, Walk On Girl would be a great movie because I think if somebody loved that movie, then I'd be like, we probably are a match because
Hmm,
it's a weird movie and I like it.
right.
Good. But anyway, so best action sequence. I can't think of anything that was more awesome. I had my issues with Infinity War, but I thought when Thor comes down with that hammer in Wakanda, that I love Thor. I'm a huge Chris Hemsworth fan, and I thought that as far as the sequence was really great and
All
really
right.
fun. So
Um, cool. I was thinking of, I mean, Mission Impossible Fallout is full of great action sequences, but I think if I have to single out one specific one, it has to be Incredibles 2, the scene with the elastic bike and the train, the
yeah,
runaway
that
train.
was really good.
Incredible. Brad Bird is a master of action sequences as far as I'm concerned, and that was so good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, definitely. All right. So, best musical moment. I have to pick. I really liked a place called Slaughter Race, and that was a huge surprise. I
Yes.
wasn't expecting to all of a sudden get a Alan Menken song, and there it
Hmm.
was. That was really fun.
Yeah.
Um, but then also, in Anna and the Apocalypse, there is a scene. There's a song called "Turning My Life Around," where she's walking to school and the zombie apocalypse is happening all around her, but she's like doesn't even realize it because she's singing the song and she's thinking about her life and she's just caught up in her own world, and it's just so well done and so funny and charming, and it's a great song. So this is probably the second best song in the whole movie. So
Cool.
yeah, those are the two.
Uh, my musical sequence doesn't actually come from a musical film,
Uh-huh.
but it is another scene that really moved me in the movie Black Klansman, which is full of very emotional scenes, but mostly
Yeah.
about rage and, indignant thing or injustice. And this is a scene that comes early in the movie in which the characters are at this party and they just start dancing to this music. I think the name of the song is Too Late to Turn Back Now, and it's the main guy and the girl that he's been having a connection with,
Oh
and
yeah, I
it's just
forgot
like,
about that. Yeah.
yeah. And this is a scene that when I watched it in the theater, it made me tear up a little bit because it was just so beautiful seeing these people dancing, especially, and having so much fun and being beautiful in a movie that is all about injustice and how these people are in danger, but to see you know them celebrating was really moving to me, and that sequence has stuck with me.
Very good. All right. So best animal performance. I have to say, when I was thinking about this category, I couldn't really think of one that had like a real. I hardly could think of one that had like a real animal. Like a lot of it was CG. I mean, there's Lean on Pete, I guess, but it was real horse. But I don't know. As far as the one that I actually could think of that was that really worked for me and was a huge surprise this year is the movie Alpha. And I know that
Okay.
some of it is the CG wolf in there, but there's some real dogs. But I thought this movie was very well done and very moving, and the cinematography is gorgeous and very great lead performance from Cody Smith McPhee. He was great in it, and it was kind of like a YA version of The Revenant, but with like a nice person to follow
Cool.
that you were rooting for, actually. And I don't know, I thought it was just, I was shocked at how much I liked it. And I thought the bond between the wolf and the boy was really great and very well done. And you felt for both of them. And so, yeah, it was actually a really pretty good movie, I think.
Cool. I actually proposed this category for animal performance because I thought this was a really good year for animals in film.
Mm-hmm.
So I want, you can shout out Horatio, the fastest duck in England from The Favorite. I don't know if you've seen that.
Oh, yeah.
There's a very funny thing with the duck. And then there's Olivia the dog, who was in Widows and Game Night. She's the same dog.
Oh, is that really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. But the one that I want to highlight is a animal performer that he or she absolutely steals the show in just one scene in the movie Zama, which I talked about. And this is a very specific scene in which the main character is basically pleading to the governor to find a way to get out of the jungle into a different post. And all of a sudden this llama comes into the frame and starts snooping around and like smelling his head and his face, and it's so funny and so unexpected. That llama is one of the best performances of the year. It's an absolute highlight. I love that scene.
Very good. Well, and you also had some cute dog scenes in animated films with Sergeant Stubby. You had Isle of Dogs, which some of those dog scenes were so cute. Mm-hmm. And then also there is a very unusual dog scene. I don't want to give it away since you haven't seen it, in Mirai, that is really charming. So that's really funny and works. So cool. Yeah, good ones. Yeah, I was like, I don't know about this category, but well, okay. So we're almost done. So the best young performer, I have to go. I mean, I already talked about Charlie Plummer, who's amazing. I talked about Thomas McKenzie, who was amazing. And Cody Smith McPhee was great. So those are some, but I actually go with very young, not even teenage young, little children. I thought the two little kids in Shoplifters were amazing. Chateau and Yuri, I don't know the actors' names. They were so cute. I just wanted to adopt them. They were the most adorable I've ever seen.
Yeah, the great choice. The kids are so adorable and so good in the movie. Everyone in the movie is so great.
So good.
Yeah. My young performer, I'm going to go with Helena Howard, who is the lead actress in a movie called Madeline's Madeline, which is a really strange little movie about this girl who has some sort of mental issues, and she is working on this theater project with this fancy director, and she gets really into it, and then a lot of things start coming out and bubbling from her, and I think she gives that really, really intense, really great performance. I can't wait to see what else she does because she's so good. And I would recommend the movie. It was very small and independent movie, didn't get a lot of attention when it came out, but I think it's totally worth seeing, especially if you're into like weird indie movies. Helena Howard.
Cool. Yeah, I've been meaning, that has actually been on my list, but I wasn't able to see that. But that sounds good. All right, last category, we have most underrated, and there were a lot of movies that I felt like there were a lot of movies that were just barely certified fresh or just kind of lukewarm reception that I thought deserved better. But the only one that was, I thought, pretty well eviscerated by critics that I actually really enjoyed is I Feel Pretty. That I really enjoyed it. I think people took it way too seriously. I think people were overthinking it, to be honest. To me, it felt like a old Penny Marshall movie, our rest in peace.
Yeah.
That, where there's a little bit of magical realism. And what I liked is that I liked the fact that she actually didn't become thin or pretty. Like, she is pretty, but you know what I mean. She actually didn't change her body. It was just the way that she saw herself change. And so when she looked in the mirror, she saw somebody different, but she didn't actually change, which I liked. So it's really just about how her gaining confidence and what a difference that makes, and her feeling pretty, and that makes her have a whole new confidence and a whole new belief in herself. And she definitely, like, it's not a perfect movie. She definitely maybe becomes a little bit too unlikable at a certain point, and not all the jokes work. But overall, I thought that it had a really nice heart to it, and had its very good intentions. And I don't know, I just liked it. I liked her little group of friends. I thought they were funny. I liked her boyfriend. I thought he was really charming and cute, and I don't know, I just liked it. I was shocked that people were so, like, not just that they didn't like it, because but like, I felt like people were like offended by it, and I was like, oh, this is an offensive movie. And I don't know, I didn't see it that way. I thought that it was at worst harmless, and so that's just my opinion.
Sure. I haven't seen that one. Maybe because it was so underrated.
Yeah.
Anyway, my underrated pick, a movie that I think got a mixed response. I don't know actually if it's fresh or not on Rotten Tomatoes. I forgot to look at it, but I think a movie that deserves to be talked about more than it was. Excuse me, and that is the movie Tully, starring Charlize Theron and directed by Jason Reitman.
Yeah.
And which I think the movie has a very, very bold twist near the end. And I think
I hate
it doesn't,
twist.
the twist
I hate it.
maybe doesn't work the way it should be. I agree with you that it's not the best twist, but I think there's so much more in the movie that comes before the twist. I think the vision of motherhood as this, like, very messy, very tiring thing, and Charlize Theron gives such an honest performance, I feel, about this mother who is, like, just so tired because she doesn't have the time to take care of all these kids. And she doesn't also have the money to, like, do all these other things that her fancier brother and his wife can't afford. So I think it was a very honest movie in that sense, and very interesting as sort of story that I don't think I've seen a lot of in movies. And I wish people had given it more attention, taking that into account, the things that were so unusual about it.
Yeah, it did have those really good highs. That part of it that made me frustrated, because I'm just like, it was so close to being brilliant, and then but yeah, it definitely is very, very honest. Like, if you probably show it to teenagers, and they'll never want to
have a kid,
have a child.
Yeah, that's where I'm at after watching that movie, honestly. And I'm not even a woman, so.
Another one that I actually thought was kind of underrated is the movie The Commuter. I thought it was a really tight, entertaining little thriller. Like, it might be partly because I haven't seen that many of these Liam Neeson action movies, and maybe people that have seen tons of them, this is like, oh, very rote. But since I haven't, I thought he was good. I thought the action was good. I thought it built tension well. I liked Vera Farmiga in it, Patrick Wilson, Sam Neill. It has a good cast. Elizabeth McGovern has a really good cast, and I thought it was pretty well shot and pretty well done, and I liked it. So
cool. Yeah, that looked really fun. I really wanted to see that, but didn't get around to it.
Yeah. So there you go. That is our thoughts about this year. We think we covered a lot of movies, and I think I got a lot of variety. So this was really fun. I really enjoyed it, and hopefully people will let us know in the comment section or on Twitter. Let us know what you would pick. I'll put all the superlatives in the description section, and so let us know what you would pick for the different topics. And if you want to do even your own video where you give your picks, that would be really fun, and we would totally pass that on social media and all that fun stuff. And so, yeah, let us know what you think. And so, Conrad, how can people find you online?
So you can find me on Twitter at Coco Hits New York, or you can go to my blog, which is cocohitsny.wordpress.com.
Great. I'll have that in the description section. And you can follow me at Rachel's Reviews on iTunes and on YouTube, and you can put your ratings and reviews on iTunes. Really appreciate it. And you can now find me on Rotten Tomatoes, which is insane. And I'll have my link for my profile there in the description section. And so check that out. And a lot of fun stuff. So thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. And we'll be back together to talk about the Oscars. So
we will.
Yay.
Get ready. Everyone's having Bohemian Rhapsody fever.
Yeah, right. So, all right. We'll talk again soon, and that'll be great.
Okay,
Bye.